Today on the show, we have Shiela Olson, an expert in college advising. Welcome, Sheila.
Hi, Rama.
To the show. Sheila Olson is a former admissions officer, corporate lawyer, high school teacher, and field archaeologist. She brings a wealth of experiences and perspectives to her work as an independent college advisor. And this is a big topic for every year when anyone has a child who's college bound, or in some cases a few years before they're college bound. Parents start feeling anxiety and kids start feeling anxiety. So this is a very appropriate conversation that more people should be having. So I'm so glad that this is your expertise and we have you in today to chat with us about.
It's nice to be here.
About this field. So I have a very important question to ask you first off to get started. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, which is the quintessential Midwest college town and the home of the University of Illinois, where my father was a law professor. It's about 3 hours south of Chicago.
Very nice. And when you were in high school, did you see yourself one day doing all the things that you're doing as an adult?
No, I certainly didn't.
One day when I grow up, I'm going to do these 50 things.
No, I certainly didn't. And it's one of the things I love telling teenagers, which is, you never know which path life will take you down, or paths, and I have been equally happy doing all the things that I have done, so I think it's a positive message.
Right, and I should mention that not only do you do all these amazing things, but you're also a parent.
Yes.
You have multiple children at different levels of schooling, so that's,
I have
you're not busy at all.
teenagers, yeah.
So what got you interested in college advising? Why this field?
So I got interested in the field back in the early 90s when I was a high school teacher at a private school in Los Angeles. I was a high school history teacher, ancient and medieval, and I did some college advising, writing recommendations, that kind of things for some of my own students, and enjoyed that so much that I became an interviewer for my alma mater out in Southern California. My alma mater was Harvard, and at that time, an interview was required for admission. It no longer is. So I gradually took on a larger and larger group of kids, interviewing them, and interfaced more and more frequently on an administrative side with the college admissions office back here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And eventually they asked me to become the co-chair of their operation out in Southern California, which extended from San Diego all the way to Bakersfield. So it was a large pool of applicants. And when I returned to Harvard for law school later, a few years later, it was natural for me to then take a part-time job while a law student at the admissions office there. Wow,
and how do you find this the experience of it? It's a unique perspective for you because, as I mentioned before, you're a parent, and you have kids that are eventually college bound, and then from the other perspective, you're advising people on the whole college process. So it's a very you're a very uniquely qualified college advisor. And how has that been for you? How's it been going?
Well, it's been a lot of fun.
It's a big question.
I really enjoy it. Let me try and parse it out. It is definitely helpful to have sat on the other side of the table. I think it is helpful for anyone doing college advising. It's not necessary, but it's helpful to have been part of that black box that parents are so concerned about. What happens? You send the application off, and somebody decides on your kid, or at least the perception is that somebody decides. And to be honest with you, that somebody or how many somebodies varies by the size of the school, the amount of applications they get, that kind of thing. So the admissions process is very different for a small liberal arts college versus a large public state institution. But in general, every college does have somebody have eyes on that application. And it is helpful to know what we all as admissions officers thought was unique, appealing, interesting, memorable. I think maybe that last one's the most important of all, when you're looking at hundreds of applications every day.
Right, and I'm just wondering, like, do you find the experience useful or helpful when somebody calls you and asks you for advice and you sit down with them and they're going into a full throttle panic, and then they're like the top 90 questions that they pepper out at you, and do you find yourself like being very calm and saying, okay, I totally understand where this is coming from, and
I hope so.
Deal with it?
I hope so. I mean, I think digging into the process early is always good, and also having a clear sense of what the landscape is. Information is power, and I think it calms a lot of people's fears, both parents and kids, when you kind of explain what actually happens. You know, it's just telling them the truth about what happens, and if a student or a family has time to do some research on colleges and programs and that kind of thing. In other words, they're not calling me in a panic September of senior year or you know, October of senior year. That sometimes happens, but the combination of time and information is really effective in calming everybody pretty much all of the time.
Right. And what do you think is the best time? If I want to call you and say, Sheila, I need your help for college advising, what's the best time? Is it senior year or junior year?
So it will vary by student depending on how mature the student is, how stressed the student is about school. I would never advise the search for a college take precedence over either adjusting to high school or enjoying the education they're getting in the here and now. That being said, I would say sophomore year, at some point during sophomore year, not early in sophomore year, but midway through, is a nice time to either start doing the research yourself or consult with a college advisor so that you know the landscape that's coming and your child has enough time to maybe visit a few proxy campuses. You know, look at a small one, look at a medium-sized one. We live here in the Boston area in a target-rich environment, so whether or not your student wants to stay in the area or not, all of the schools here are really nice ways to get in some visits and let kids see, are they interested in a small school? Do they prefer a large campus? Do they like urban, suburban, more rural? You can do that all within, you know, an hour's drive of Wellesley.
Right, and that certainly cuts down on travel and stress for parents and students.
Yeah, it does. It does. So having the time to do that, let's say in your sophomore year when the course load isn't as heavy, and so it can be very nice for families. Sometimes that isn't an option. Sometimes a child just isn't really ready to think about college until junior or even senior year, and then we work in that reality.
And if someone calls you and they say, my child is an 8th grader, I need to hire you for college consulting advice, would you take that on, or what would you advise them?
I do not. I do not work with even freshmen. I just don't think it's appropriate. A freshman is just getting his feet or her feet wet in high school. However, I do offer, and I think a lot of people do, offer a parent consult where I meet with parents and just try and explain the landscape and calm them down. Sometimes all they really need to know is what's coming, what kind of choices are they going to have to make, and then, you know, they can call me or someone else or be on their way later in their child's, you know, years.
Wow, that's good to know. What you provide a range of services. There's quite a few things that you do to help out with the process. So tell us a few of those things. I know there's a long list.
Yep.
But
so any college advisor, I think, is likely to provide a range of services. Sometimes when people get very busy, they stick with, you know, the package client, soup to nuts. You dig in for a year or 2 years. But I don't do that, and I don't like to do that. I find it very refreshing. It's more fun for me to offer a variety of different levels of service. So I told you I do offer a consult with parents, flat fee, 2 hours. I offer, you know, sort of an introduction to the college landscape, what's coming down the track, what's the schedule kind of look like for the typical student, and what are some good resources. And for many families, that's enough. Direct them to some powerful websites, give them a sense of what's coming, and with their college advisor at school, they're all set. I offer packages beginning sophomore year, juniors, seniors, essay writing packages for kids that really just need help on the writing issue, writing those college essays. And then I also do targeted work with students that are competent and comfortable with everything else, but, you know, interview prep, just coming up with a customized college list or a customized timetable. Students need different levels of support, and it's a lot of fun to have a variety of different kids.
So, and that includes college essays, and if I don't know where I want to apply, and big school, small school.
Right. So that's you know, sometimes I will meet with a student for, you know, on an hourly basis 3 or 4 times, and we cover, you know, how do I begin that college search? We talk about what they want out of a school, and I think one of the things that any adult that knows things about college, and this could be a teacher, it can be a parent, can provide to a kid is some architecture on how to begin researching schools and programs. For example, is a kid an appropriate candidate for an honors college at a big school? How do I go about looking into what different goodies an honors college can provide at a place like UMass? It's Commonwealth Honors College. It offers, preferred access to some courses, and that can be very valuable at a big school. Is a student interested in a specialized pre-professional career like nursing? If you go on the nursing track, what are the options to get that RN, that BSN? What are the differences? What schools offer them? What kind of internships are available? Right. So a lot of that research skills component, which is really valuable for life in the future, is a really nice way to dig in with kids who are very comfortable with the application process itself, but may want some guidance on finding that good fit school or program that's unique for them.
Right, right. Yeah. And is it necessary that everyone has to have their lives figured out as they graduate from high school and know what they want to do forever?
Absolutely not. It's not necessary for life.
Is that the end of the world? Like, is that a doomsday scenario if you don't know what you want to do?
No, it's not. That being said, I generally do advise kids not to tick the undecided box on an application, because as a college admissions officer, what they want to know is, what are you interested in? Right. So you don't have to commit. The beauty of the U.S. college system, let's say in comparison to Europe, is that we don't expect our kids to know exactly what they want to do. Most kids will switch majors at least once, over 50%. So you're in good company with a large portion of students if you don't know exactly what you want to do. But I shouldn't say we, I'm no longer on the college side of things, but colleges do want to know that you have an interest or interests. So what's important for kids to think about is, what are the things, plural, that they might want to do, and how can they get across the reasons that they have these interests at this point in time. If you're an intellectually curious person and that comes across, you're going to be intellectually curious no matter what the topic is, and that's what colleges really want to know.
Mm-hmm. And so from your expertise and your experience, what's the one big misconception that you find that most college-bound students have?
I think that students and parents have the misconception that every school wants kids today to be good at everything. And that's just not the case. Colleges are looking to create well-rounded classes. They aren't necessarily looking for well-rounded kids. They want kids who have demonstrated interests in areas that they can share with others and then learn about new things from their classmates.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's good to know.
Yeah.
And you are constantly updating, and you're constantly attending all kinds of conferences on this related to these topics. So you meet like the heads of school all the time. So give us an example of some recent people that you've met in the college advising process.
Yeah, so this past September, NACAC, which is the National Association of College Admissions Professors, Counselors, not professors, professionals, but the C at the end stands for counselors. That draws everybody from deans of admissions from the major schools. Bill Fitzsimmons from Harvard was there, other places, obviously the Boston area schools heads were there, of admissions departments, to the editor-in-chief of the Chronicle of Higher Ed, to all sorts of college admissions counselors from high schools, public and private, across the country. And it's a great time to go to breakout sessions and hear what kind of challenges guidance counselors are saying their kids are facing, to hear what kinds of challenges or institutional priorities schools want us to know. So one of the things that's interesting in this profession is that every year the landscape changes for schools as well as for students. So schools are selecting you as much as you're selecting them. And different schools will have different institutional priorities year to year. Right. Recently, a local institution confided to a group of us that they had more tenured Russian professors than they had students in the Russian department. So they literally were saying, please have students interested in Russian studies apply to us. We're looking for them.
Right.
So that's kind of interesting. I recently was on the Swarthmore campus and met with the Swarthmore Dean of Admissions, and he was looking for compassionate conservative students. They didn't have enough of a political balance on campus, and he let that be known. That was their institutional, or one of their institutional priorities this year.
Wow, that is interesting. Well, that's exciting to know. You have a wealth of information on all sorts of colleges. And tell us your website. Where can we reach you?
So you can go to my website, which is Sheila Olson, one word, advising, all one word, SheilaOlsonAdvising.com, and it has some information about me, services I offer, and maybe more importantly, just some general information about the college application process.
And how busy are you right now, and how many students do you take on at one time?
Well, I'm pretty busy right now. I'm full with seniors. I try to plan a year out and take some juniors, some sophomores. Right now I'm handling just over a dozen students, and some of those are internationals or out of state, and I work with them via Skype, and some of them are students I see in their homes or at a library every week or every other week.
Yeah. And how many sessions do you typically do for? I guess it depends on where they are in the process.
Correct.
But what's your typical, like starting off with someone, do you take them on for like a 2-year stretch?
So that's pretty typical. I mean, depending on when they plug in the process, sophomore or junior or senior year, it's oftentimes for a package student until the last application is submitted. But I told you I also have students I see 1 time or 3 times or 4 times, whatever age they are, and then they're launched and competent, feel confident in doing the process themselves.
That's great that you're so flexible, and you have so many resources and you know so much about this stuff. Which is great.
It's fun, and I do enjoy those kids. Sometimes I'll meet with a kid or a family, and I won't hear them from them for a while, and then they'll call me back, be able to follow their senior year and say, I just have a few more questions.
Right, exactly. Awesome. That's exciting. So SheilaOlsonAdvising.com. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Sheila. This has been fabulous. Thanks for coming in and explaining all this to us.
Thank you so much, Rama.
Perfect.
Pleasure.